already seeing significant reductions in gun crimes and all sorts of crimes. Councilmember Giarrusso, my former partner on the city council, this gives me an opportunity to publicly thank you for the work that you've done for this community, the sacrifices that you've made. You're a lawyer, you're a good lawyer. There's a lot more money you could have made over the past several years, and you chose not to make it to do good for this city. So I want to publicly thank you for everything you've done. It's been a pleasure to work with you. And I want to say that I'm proud that we could deliver together for your district. And thank you for such a well-reasoned approach to everything you've done. You've managed the budget at probably the worst budget times a city has ever faced. So thank you, Joe. Huge thanks to my friend and Council President Helena Moreno for her outsized efforts and the many hours that she spent working to create this padlock ordinance so that we would have this on the books, so that we wouldn't just make arrests, but we could also shut down the hubs and webs of criminalities and actually shut those places down that were causing people harm. That's not easy. That's going beyond the job description. That's not just using the playbook, that's creating a new playbook for the people of this community. And I want to thank you publicly for the work that you did here. This playbook will be used again and again throughout this community. This is one of more to come. Today we announced an enormous success, but I want you to rest assured there is more to come. This is the first of many steps. And so I'd like to first bring up the person that put this padlock ordinance in place and reworked it until it was something that could stand up in court, that allowed us to shut this place down for good, and have a strategy to do it throughout the rest of the city. Council President Moreno.
Well, good morning to everyone, and I'll say this, this is really a great day. A business that was really a breeding ground for crime and for violence, and that also caused a lot of fear for neighbors all around Hollygrove, is gone, and gone for good today. So I really want to thank you, Mr. DA, for your leadership in this. Daniel, you've been really tremendous and amazing to work with. From the moment I got a call from Daniel Shanks, many months ago now, wanting to get together about really learning and understanding the padlock ordinance as to how it could be utilized to shut down businesses that were really bringing in crime to different communities. He brought in a whole team that was made up of members of different law enforcement agencies, brought in the NOPD, the city attorney's office, so that we could figure out exactly how to make this work. And I'll say this, there were other times when we were hoping to have used this padlock ordinance, but it seemed like it couldn't come together until Daniel really got involved and made sure that everybody had a real understanding as to how to make it work. And that's when the police chief said, you know what, I'm going to send the letter and initiate the process in London Lodge. And ever since then, the ball really kept rolling. But I'll say this, just as the district attorney said, this is what happens when we all collaborate and work together to deal with major issues in our city, including crime. And this is what happens when we work with urgency. Everyone has known about what's been going on in London Lodge. People who drive up and down Airline Highway, you take a look at all of the houses that you see right here, just adjacent to the side of London Lodge. Everybody knew what was going on here. But for many years, nothing happened. Nothing happened until the leadership of this city council, this district attorney, and this police chief all came together to get the job done and finally make sure that this particular business was gone for good. I do want to thank everyone that's here from the city of New Orleans, and I see my friends from the health department here. They really did a tremendous job making sure that the individuals who were living in London Lodge were relocated to a safe place. Thank you for everyone working with code enforcement to make sure that that the conditions at that time were looked through and somewhat rectified. Thank you to, of course, our fire marshal, who said, you know what, there is no solution here. It's like we've got to shut this place down and get everybody out of here. But once again, this is a good day. myself and Councilmember Giarrusso, I don't even know if we can count the number of emails and calls that we've received about London Lodge over the years. But now I'm glad to say, promises made, promises kept. Thank you.
I'd like to bring up Councilmember Giarrusso. As I said before, the city is going to be losing him on that council, and that's going to be a great loss. But I think you're going to see him still leaning in to make the city better from a different position. I'm sorry to see him go, but I know he's going to always deliver for the people of the city no matter where he sits. Councilmember Giarrusso.
I don't know if I should say anything and just sit down after all those nice words. I want to hit on 3 points. Number one is we're the legislative branch. And so, Helena, you're the one who brought this padlock ordinance and made it come to fruition. But just because you have a law doesn't mean it gets enforced. And that's one of the things that constantly drives us is we can give, a lot of times, our government agencies, our partners, the tools to do something, but it has to be executed upon. And so that leads me to number 2, and this is something that DA Williams and I have talked a lot about, which is if you want something to happen and you want it to work well for people, there has to be an and principle. Here it was the public and policymakers who made sure this happened. As Councilmember Moreno said, we have worked repeatedly on this London Lodge for such a long time, and I know it's something that the DA's office made sure happen. But just because we have a padlock ordinance does not mean that something's going to be activated right away. We needed all of the partners that you see standing here today to make sure that was executed on. So thank you to the mayor's office for making sure that sanitation and code enforcement and health and safety and permits were all part of this process of demolishing what you see behind us. You have the DA's office who made sure the padlock ordinance was enforced. You had Chief Kirkpatrick who made sure that this was a principle. I saw here we have state police and ATF. This has truly been an effort between so many different partners to make sure this happens. The last part of the and for me is public safety. I know the DA talked about reducing violent crime, reducing what happened here, making sure that there wasn't as much salacious activity. But the other part of public safety is making our neighborhoods safe and making them healthy. And as somebody who represents Hollygrove on the other side of Airline and Dixon, that's right behind us, I can tell you that we are making a difference in people's lives right now by clearing out this blight, clearing out a place that has been terrible to live next to for decades, and making sure now that something safer, better, healthier for everybody will be here. Thank you very much to everybody for all of your work to make this happen.
Thank you, Joe. You know, the boots on the ground, the men and women who risk their lives so that we can prosecute cases and we can deliver justice. I mean, that is really where the rubber meets the road. And I can't thank Special Agent in Charge, ATF, Josh Jackson, enough for his strategic investigations that built strong cases that put us in a position to do this. Josh, can you come up?
Thank you. Good afternoon. And like the DA said, our efforts were collective. It was unified. We worked with our state and local partners. This was a very surgical and focused investigation. It was done in a way that would have the most impact on the community to reduce violent crime. The team that's here before you, it is something that is going to be ongoing. And I consider this just the first quarter. And it should be a message to our bad actors and our violent offenders out there that they will not be allowed to conduct their criminal activity with impunity. We will hold people accountable. We will ensure that the public is made safer, and we're committed to stand with our local and state partners as we continue in additional endeavors, focusing on our community and our hot spots and our folks that are committing violent crime.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Now, I know he's not going to like this. He's not a man of many words. He's a doer, not a talker. But, you know, a little while ago, when I asked the governor if we could get more state police here in the city of New Orleans to help be a force multiplier with the NOPD, a lot of people thought I was crazy. They're like, wait a minute, you're a Democrat, he's a Republican, I don't understand this. Why y'all working together? I think it's kind of silly. You know, it's like a quarterback being mad at his tight end. It's a team. You got to work to win games. And Rodney Hyde has been an amazing partner as a head of Troop NOLA. We asked for more state police for more months, and we got a whole troop. Rodney, can I just get you to come up here so these folks can see your face and know who's been delivering for us, and just say whatever you want to say, man.
No, thank you all. I just want to say that it's a pleasure to actually come into a city and be a part and work with a district attorney that's actually proactive. We all know that court systems are often overburdened. They're very busy. So for them to take action and actually be proactive in the community and to do something like this is pretty amazing. And working with Daniel Shanks on many, many other projects, there's going to be great success with the No Dice program. And there's a large benefit to why there is such a drop in crime can be solely attributed to their work with the DA's office and the No Dice program. So thank y'all so much, and thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you.
These collaborations you've seen over the past year are going to be a game changer for this city. I've already gotten some calls from DAs from around the country who want to talk about how to foster collaboration in their jurisdictions. And having a team member like Daniel Shanks makes it easy. So Daniel, please talk to these folks about some of the details and some of the obstacles you ran into to make this happen.
Thank you, DA. Today, a location once synonymous with violence and mayhem is reduced to rubble. This transformation couldn't have happened by accident. It reflects the power of collaboration amongst federal, state, and city agencies, and this is a united force. No longer reacting to crime, but proactively transforming the environments where safety, opportunity, and community can thrive. We are proud, together, to lay a collective groundwork for a safer, more hopeful New Orleans. And I want to thank all these partners behind us. It couldn't have happened without every single person here. Captain Bush, I mean, we ended up talking to each other multiple times a day. And NOPD was critical in not only the writing of the padlock letter and our working with Lieutenant Palumbo, but actually going in and day out, checking on the individuals living there, making sure they would get relocated. The CAO's office, Alex Duncanberger. Alex Duncanberger is a partner with the No Dice program. He is in community day in and day out, ensuring that the citizens of this city have a better quality of life. The health department, Rachel and Catherine, they have been incredible to work with, just kind of guiding us and understanding us what the health regulations are and where things need to change. NOFD has been absolutely critical, especially at this location, pointing out life safety issues. The state fire marshal, Captain Tyler Simpson, was absolutely instrumental in the actual cease and desist order that was issued at this location. Captain Hyatt, it has been such a pleasure working with you, and the city as a whole is grateful for everything that you and your team have done, and I'm so grateful for the partnerships that we've created. The council and especially Council President Moreno. When we started looking at the possibility of using the padlock ordinance, I wanted to reach out to her and say, how do we bring everybody to the table? Within a few days, her and her team had everyone convened. And we said, okay, we know we have a few targets. London Lodge is one of them. Because of her ability to influence and collaborate, we had a letter with NOPD written within a week, and it was issued. And that couldn't have happened without you. It's not just legislating, it's her granular involvement, her results-driven leadership that got us to where we are today. And I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to work with you, Council President. A big special thanks to the NOPD ATF Joint Task Force, especially Tim Jones and Craig Blair. These guys were on the ground in the initial investigation starting last year. And throughout every step in the process, they kept us apprised of how the investigation was going. They had an incredible investigation that resulted in taking some of the worst criminals off of our street. And those incidents led us to being able to issue that padlock letter and working with NOPD to issue that padlock letter. So special thanks to them and Special Agent in Charge Joshua Jackson, and especially the undercover agents who can't be here today, who risk life and limb to protect our city. So this is the type of partnership that is needed to make this big impact on the city, and I am so grateful that we are working together. And it doesn't end with this demolition of this site. This is a collaboration that opens the doors to new possibility to transform spaces that once stood as strongholds of crime. Together, we're not just tearing down walls, we are building pathways to a stronger, safer, and united city. So I want to thank everyone here today. It has been such an honor, and I look forward to continuing to do this, to use this as a template, to use it as a roadmap of what we can do in this city. And most of all, thank you, DA, for giving us the opportunity to do this. Your vision is instrumental in getting this done.
Thank you, Daniel. You know, there really is no limit to what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit. And that's what all these people behind me really manifest to you right now. Ann Kirkpatrick is not here with us. We've got Merlin Bush with us representing her and the entire department. That's a tip of the spear, but they are so welcoming to all of the other supports that we got. I mean, this is pretty much City Hall and every law enforcement and fire agency that we have in the state. And you just don't typically see a team like this delivering for people in our state, and I'm so proud to be a part of this. You know, this is an exciting moment. There's more to come. No Dice will be turning its attention to the French Quarter in downtown, and you will hear more details about that soon, but this is working, and so we're just going to double down and lean in. Keith?
All right, let's open the floor for on-topic questions. We'll start to the right of the podium. Let's go with Missy from the Times Picker Unit.
Good morning. When did the demolition happen? How much did it cost, and how was it funded?
You want to take it, Daniel?
Yeah, so the demolition happened over the course of the last 2 weeks. I have been in touch with the owner from day one of this investigation. They've been extremely cooperative. They assisted in the relocation of individuals, and this is funded by the owner of London Lodge. And they saw the issues that they faced with the way that conditions were and realized that they needed a new face for this property, and so they demolished it.
It's a subtle piece, but voluntary compliance is really always the goal, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's city enforcement, getting owners of properties to do what they need to do rather than have government have to come in and do it. So what Daniel just explained here is not taxpayer dollars being responsible for this demolition. I think it's a pretty big deal. But Daniel was able to work with the owners and explain to them the real consequences, and now we're getting real voluntary compliance and support.
All right, next, Ashley from WGNO.
Councilman, so being that this is your district, you talked about the fact that people have been emailing you guys. This is the first time you walked through your district, hearing what people have to say. And I know at first the London Lodge owner was not successful in saying what this was going to be. Are you trying to make sure that this doesn't just sit?
Well, yeah, I mean, first, let's start with you don't want it to just sit here and make sure it's fallow and that you have problems, that this becomes a corner where there's activity all over again. I think the overarching sentiment of people is one, of happiness, and two, faith in people who have worked so hard in having this happen. And then three, the best part about my residents is they are engaged. And so anytime there is an issue, they let us know. And so they are going to continue to let the DA, the NOPD, our state partners, Councilmember Moreno and myself know, and they are not going to allow that to happen. So I see this both as a huge opportunity because we've shut down bad businesses in the past in Dixon. Other things have been knocked down in Hollygrove. This is a continuation of that, and how we make sure, as Daniel said, we keep the forward momentum going with the owner now being responsible.
Elizabeth, WDSU.
I imagine this is for Council President Elena Moreno, but perhaps maybe the DA as well. Just talk a little bit more about the padlock ordinance, how important that was to get to this step here, and also, was this the first time the padlock ordinance has ever been used?
Yeah, great question, Elizabeth. So first, yes, it's the first time that we've been able to initiate the padlock ordinance. And the way that the padlock ordinance came together was, you know, throughout my years on the council, I was constantly hearing about different businesses in our community that were potentially enabling or really breeding crime. But what could really be done about that? So I started to take a look at what other cities were doing about businesses like that. And one of the cities that had a padlock ordinance was Baltimore. So at that time, we had our former police chief, Harrison, as the chief in Baltimore. So I called him and I'm like, Chief, tell me about this padlock ordinance. He's like, look, it's very effective. he as police chief, based on certain criteria, could himself initiate a shutdown of a business, and it just made results happen so much faster. And the result, and really, like the whole purpose of the padlock ordinance wasn't necessarily to go and shut down businesses for good, but it was to find a path to create better results and solutions for the business. Ultimately, sometimes they would have to be totally shut down, but it was really about finding that path to create safer environments. And so based on what he told me, we started creating the padlock ordinance for New Orleans. There were some things that we had to really fit in here to make work in the city. But then from that point on, once we passed the ordinance, I will say this, I think it wasn't until Daniel came on board and really started to explain it to all of the different agencies and departments how effective it could be and how to correctly utilize it, that it started to be initiated and move forward. And there were several other locations that we discussed, and there are others that we will be moving forward with this padlock ordinance, but this was the very first one that we knew just had to be the place. And Chief Kirkpatrick agreed, and she signed off on the letter which initiated the padlock ordinance.
One bit of one shameless plug here. It is no secret why when I saw Michael Harrison step up to that podium to retire from Baltimore, I got on the phone with him and started working to try to get him involved in the DA's office here back at home. He is considered a national expert. He's been a turnaround agent in this city and in Baltimore. And so he works with our No Dice program. And we will shamelessly copy anything that is working in any other place in this country and bring it to New Orleans, and we will steal the best talent and experts that we can find. If you want to win championships, you go find superstars and you find the best players, and that's made a difference.
And I'll just say one thing about Chief Harrison and how important it was with his connection with Baltimore. When we wanted to utilize this for this instance, we actually got to connect with Baltimore about what that process looks like, thanks to Chief Harrison. Yep. He put us in touch with them. So any questions we had, they were open to trying to assist us with navigating what that padlock looks like, what the steps that we have to take to make sure it was successful.
Nice to hear from Tom. So I'd say three, hopefully brief questions. Does anybody know when the Lodge was built? And Councilman Jerusalem may have touched upon this, but why the timing now with the demolition? And lastly, you had mentioned that the No Dice program has yielded results. Have you seen, or do you have any data that shows any results from the time that you had the cease and desist order? I know it's relatively close to the time of the event.
Yeah, so the year it was built, I'm not sure. Whenever I was talking about this to my parents, I grew up right down the way on Airline Highway. They noted it being a continuous issue. I was talking with Joe LeRae from our office, also from the area, always known this to be a problem issue. So I don't know the exact time it was built, but it's been a problem for decades now. Second question. So actually, this speaks to the collaboration with ownership. Is that after the cease and desist, they saw vagrants coming in and trying to enter into some of the rooms, and they did not want to see the issues that they had before continuing to happen. They chose to do this demolition in the last 2 weeks because they didn't want this to become another problem. They didn't want it to lay fallow. They wanted to make sure that they were moving in the right direction so that this property could be brought back into commerce.
So this was owner initiated?
Yes, the demolition. And that was based upon, that working relationship that we've had with them since this entire process.
And
left of the data, do you have any data to show any?
I don't have that offhand.
We plan on sharing this data because it's pretty strong. In all of the No Dice areas that we've been in, there have been reductions in gun crimes. I remember running into the commanders from the NOPD after our first project. And they just anecdotally, we were at Duke Chase having lunch at two different tables. They're like, man, I got to meet that Daniel Shanks. He's like, we have not been getting calls in that area since that place got shut down. So now we're collecting that data from all those sources. We will certainly be sharing it with the media. And just to put a finer point on your question about the timing, abandoned buildings are hazards. I mean, I remember Councilmember Giruso was working very, very hard on abandoned pools for a while in his district because that's a hazard for kids. This is a hazard for kids. This is a neighborhood. People live here. And so we didn't want our effort to create a new hazard. And if the owner was not able to move fast enough with demolition, we were prepared to move forward using city dollars for that as well. But because of this man's work, we didn't have to. Thanks, everybody. Oh, Elizabeth.
One more quick question. I see like an office building behind us. Is all of the demolition done, or are there more things
Still a work in progress. We just wanted to get you out here so you could see it in progress and not just see the end of the work, but we could, like they tell my kid in school, show your work on the side of the math paper.
When did it start again? About 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks.
One last question. What's typical of this site?
I can't speak to what's in place, but I can tell you that based upon, and I'll let Daniel speak to this a little bit too, some communications with, they want to be a productive business for this community. And they are working towards that goal and demolishing what was here and working with the community to figure out what would fit well. I think that's in place. Daniel, you want to speak to it?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke with the owners as early as just about an hour ago. And they want to bring this property back into commerce, but this is the first step of that. So this is just the first step they're taking proactively to see what they can make of this property and make sure that it is they're good actors in the neighborhood. At the end of the day, the criminal element overwhelmed the owners, and the conditions after Ida overwhelmed the owners. They knew that this was the next step that they had to take, and we're grateful for them doing that.
Anything else, Ashley, Missy?
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
So, when the demolition is finished, are there any requirements for the owners that are put in place? For instance, keeping it fenced off or anything else?
Yeah, they've already made a commitment to make sure that this property is protected so that no one can get in and access it, and that there are no hazards on the premises between now and when it comes back into commerce.
You good? Yeah. Just one last question for Council President. Council President, we're hearing about, and perhaps Councilman Caruso as well, the Plaza Tower may be coming down. We have demolitions here. Can you talk about just where the state of blight in the city, and is there a more concerted effort to address blighted properties at this point? Are we at that moment?
Funny that you're mentioning that, because Daniel and I just had this conversation a little bit earlier. One of the things I've been working with the district attorney's office on is moving forward on the criminal blight statute. And the reason why we're talking about criminal blight is so often, we go on the code enforcement side and people are given a variety of different fees and fines, yet nothing ever really happens. There are some very affluent, I'll say, owners of properties, and therefore these fees and fines they don't really care about. But maybe if we move forward with the criminal blight statute, that potentially could bring jail time for keeping blighted property in that condition, that we could see some potential changes. So that is one of the things that we're currently working on potential properties where we could move forward with this criminal blight statute.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.